Hey everybody, this is TG Watkins with simplertrading.com, and let's get into your daily five today. So I wanted to start with one of the indexes that we can get a little bit of context and see what's going on. Here is the Nasdaq, and we've got the weekly, the daily, and the hourly that I want to be talking about, and this shows a few of the patterns that I like to work with. Number one, we're looking at the call an elf shoe on the weekly chart, and we're only halfway through that pattern. And what I typically see is that this is what I call the arch of the foot, and that is the bounce in a downtrend. And we eventually need to see price retest the low area. We're not sure how far it's going to come down, but generally speaking, it'll come down and start to retest some area and essentially put in a double bottom. Or somehow, some people look at this and say it's an inverted head and shoulders. So that's what we need in order to complete those two patterns that kind of relate to each other. And once it's come down, if it holds, then we could possibly see another move up. Or if it doesn't hold, then we see a move down. And that's really the big question after here. But for now, I am looking for a general pullback in this area. Another reason I'm looking at that is because on the daily chart, we've seen price cross over the 50, run into upper resistance, and then I would generally look for it to come back down to test that 50, see if it's strength. And if it is, it'll go up. If it's not, it'll go down. So we don't know what's coming next, but I am looking for generally this kind of pullback in through here, maybe back around the daily 50, something to that case. Now it can bump around, it can bump around a little up here for a while before moving down, and that's fine too. So to kind of show you a little bit of examples that have worked out like that, let me show you SOXX. This is the ETF for the semis, and you can see how this pattern has already worked out in the way that I'm generally projecting it for the NASDAQ. So you can see here how price bounced up here, that's into the arch of the foot. And then you can see here on the weekly chart, price actually starting to move back down like that. And then on the daily chart, you can see the same thing. It crossed over the 50, ran into resistance, and it pulled back to the 50. Now, it can go further. That's fine. I'm just saying that from a point, it needs to get down there. And you don't want to be buying it just at the 50. You need to actually wait for it to turn around. But saying, hey, it's going to pull back to the 50 gives a pretty good idea and expectations of what to look for. And the other reason I've been saying that, along with the NASDAQ as well, is that we do have price over the 50, but the Moxie indicator is below zero. That is what I call an inverse trampoline move. Price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below zero. And so I want to see this actually form on the indexes and quite a few stocks out there too. And then if we look at that as another example, here's Amazon looking almost exactly like the NASDAQ. So you can see here, same thing going into the arch of the foot on the weekly time frame. And then we're also seeing that generally speaking, the weekly 50 has become resistance. And I would look for that to continue. And let's see if we get price to pull back a little bit. And then the question is, what will it do after that? On the daily chart, the difference here is that the Moxie indicator is above zero, but the formation of price needing to test support is still there. So what I'm looking at is we see price crossing the 50, running into resistance, and then I'd want to see it come back down to somewhere around the daily 50 to verify if this is actually support or not. Because that's really the unknown, is that I'm expecting a pullback, but we don't know if that pullback is going to be into strength or into weakness. And I'll show you an example of here, actually kind of a full circle, one that came into strength and that one came into weakness. So this is PLL. It's a lithium mining stock, had nothing to do with what I'm showing, except that these formations, these patterns are the same. And on the daily chart, you can see here that price crossed the 50, ran into some resistance, and then came back down to the 50. Now, in this case, it decided it was strength. So it bounced for a while. It wasn't ultimate strength. It was just for the time. And what you can see is, again, price came up here, ran into resistance, and then came back down to the 50, bounced around a little bit, but eventually fell through the 50. So this is a really good example of what I'm trying to demonstrate with the indexes and with Amazon, even Apple, and I think Tesla eventually, some of the bigger name stocks, is we should see something along these lines, and we'll have to determine if the pullback is into strength or not. And then you can see both those things here on PLL. Now, I'll leave you with Apple, and I'm seeing some similar patterns in here too. So we'll be looking right here and currently right here. And the reason I'm looking at these is because if you see on the daily chart, this is what's looking pretty similar. Note that price crossed the 50, ran into some resistance, and then came back down to the 50 with the Moxie indicator below zero. So this was an inverse trampoline move. Basically up here, price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below zero. And so it came back down to the 50 to figure out if that was strength or not. And that looks a lot like what we're seeing right here. Here's price over the 50, should be running into resistance here, and I'd be looking for price to at least come back down to the 50. That is also the same true setup as price is over the 50, but the Moxie indicator is below zero. You can see here, still below zero, but price is over the daily 50. So I put all these pieces of the puzzle together, and we'll see if it kind of works out. As I said, it can take some time up here because changing direction takes some time. And so you can see here, it took a little bit, took some days until it finally changed direction, but it did ultimately come back down here. So that's what I'm looking for is a pullback, and then we'll have to determine if that pullback is into strength or weakness. If you guys like how I'm checking these out and talk about stocks and stuff, you can go here and find a little bit more information about me. In fact, we just had a market update replay. If you go to simplertrading.com/play, you can check out the thing we did last week talking about some of the bigger picture stuff, gold and commodities and all that other things, and see where the general direction of the various markets are going. And then, of course, we have the social media, so feel free to link up with me there. And if you like a little bit more about my trading room, we actually have a trial. I think it's $47 or $49 for a 30-day trial if you guys want to come in and see how I look at the markets. But then you get all these things, and you get all the past trade spreadsheets, member downloads, real-time alerts, all that kind of stuff. And then we do live sessions at least about once a week, so you can tune in that for our interactive Q&A. So thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. And if you have any questions, go over simplertrading.com/StockCharts-TG. Thanks so much.
Hey guys, Dave Keller here with StockCharts.com. Thanks so much for watching our video. If you enjoyed it, and we hope you did, hit the like button right below. Also, we have so much new content every day. Consider subscribing to the channel. Just hit the subscribe button in the video or right below. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Have a fantastic day.